everyone, and welcome to our traditional webinar, Ask Julie Anything. I am Mariana Nadai, Marketing Events Coordinator at Adore Beast, and I'll be your host during this session. And today we're having a special webinar. We have all learned over the last few years how important pre and probiotics are to overall health. But they can be confusing, I know, because sometimes I have my own doubts. So to help with that, today Julie will be talking about our probiotics, what makes them different from each other, and what they are best used for. But don't worry, after this small lecture, Julie will be answering all your questions about pre and probiotics and the best ways to rotate them to support your pet's gut and overall body. So you know the deal, don't be shy and ask Julie anything. Before we start, I want to ask you all to switch your chat to everyone so that we can all join in on the conversation. And please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask your questions. We'll do our best to get through all of them. I also want to remind you that this session provides a judgment-free space with only the health and happiness of our animals and the planet being our core goal. So without further ado, I want to call you, Julianne Lee, to join us today.
Hello. So I think what we're gonna do, Mariana, do you want to explain what we're gonna do, like about the question, like you asking me questions and stuff, and why we're doing it that way?
Yes, so I prepare upfront some questions that are the most common questions that we have from our customers, and we thought that it could be a great idea to answer the questions to you all. So maybe some of the questions that you already have, it's the question that I will be asking right now to Julie. But again, after these questions, we will open the webinar for you guys to ask whatever questions that you have that different from the ones that we've been answering during the event. So I want to start, Julie, if you don't mind, asking you what are pre and probiotics and what are they good for?
So pre and probiotics, they're very different. And then there's also something called postbiotics. So the pre and probiotics, a prebiotic is basically the easiest way to think about it is that the probiotics need food to survive and to colonize in the gut. So a prebiotic is the food or the fertilizer that the probiotics consume in order to stay viable in the gut. And probiotics are friendly bacteria that help to reduce risks of pathogenic bacteria, help the body to create its vitamins and minerals. So when you eat, your probiotics or your friendly bacteria actually helps to convert food into your vitamins and minerals. The other thing that it does is it stimulates and regulates hormones. It's about your gut is about 99% of our, well, not 99, sorry, 89% of our immune system. It's probiotics are paramount for health. I always say that the gut microbiome is the foundation of health, and without the proper friendly bacteria, it is much more inadequate to help our dogs, our cats, our animals, and our bodies maintain health. So probiotics plant friendly bacteria and help to colonize all different kinds of species. There's thousands of different kinds of species of bacteria. So when you ingest probiotics, the goal is that you actually plant those bacteria in the gut. And they're good for everything. right? From immune system to hormones to gut-brain axis to staying calm to, I mean, there isn't a function in the body that isn't affected by the gut microbiome. And to have a healthy gut microbiome, most animals and most people don't have a healthy microbiome. So they add pre and probiotics in order to create that.
Amazing. Thank you, Julie. Can you talk a little about our pre and probiotics, ABAs, pre and probiotics? Why do we have so many different probiotic formulas? Are there any difference? Well, are there any difference between them? And what were you thinking or considering when you formulated each of them?
Okay, I might ask you to ask each one of them as we go.
Okay.
Make sure I cover all of them. So I think the difference between maybe our pre and probiotics and other ones, I'm going to start with prebiotics because they're very different.
Okay.
Prebiotics are really, really different. So with all Adored Beast formulas, I don't do anything that doesn't have medicinal value or functional value. So we don't put anything in the products that are fillers or non-medicinal ingredients. So from my vet hospital, when I was doing pre and probiotics there, I wasn't comfortable using things like maltodextrin or FOS or inulin because they're so high sugar-based ingredients. And my whole practice was trying to decrease inflammation and decrease the amount of sugars that dogs and cats and horses got. So I started to research prebiotics, and how I looked at it is how would animals in the wild be getting prebiotics? Would they be getting them like, they're not all, they're eating sugars and inulins and things like that. The majority of our prey animals, meaning dogs and cats, they get their prebiotics from the gut of their prey. So the prebiotic perspective, the fiber perspective is in the gut of the animals that they're eating. So when I looked at that, and I looked at the animals that are being ingested by our dog and our feline and canine species in the wild, I looked at groundhog, squirrels, mice, rats, chipmunks. I looked at deer. I looked at different kinds of birds. And the one thing that they all had in common, it took me a long time to figure out, was they all ingested bark on some level. So like bark from trees or twigs, things like that. So I started using larch in my practice, which is made from the bark of trees. And that is a prebiotic that has an incredible medicinal value of also being able to try and derail metastases of tumors. So I loved it because I felt like I had one eye on the gut and one eye on cancer from a proactive perspective. And I also really liked it because it has something called immune modulation. And immune modulation is really, really important when we look at all the animals that came through my clinic, and the majority of them had autoimmune diseases. That's what I would work on a lot, is autoimmune diseases, from allergies to Cushing's to different kinds of Addison's, hypothyroidism. The list goes on and on when we look at immune mediated diseases or autoimmune diseases. So larch was a really good prebiotic to use in those patients, or in any patients, because it's low on the sugar index and has a medicinal value. So that's where I started. And then, in the last 5 years, when we've become really, really heavily into probiotics with ABA, I wanted to research more. I did a lot of research with a microbiology lab on other kinds of prebiotics. So we've launched 2 new prebiotics. One is being turkey tail mushroom, And we did the full spectrum research to prove that it fed the bacteria, the friendly bacteria as well, if not better, actually better than FOS and maltodextrin. So it's an incredible prebiotic that has lots of medicinal values. I mean, we know what turkey tail does, right? So we know that it also has immune boosting effects, but also has immune modulation effects. It has been researched a lot for cancer and just overall health. It's really great for the gut. It has incredible medicinal values. So we started using turkey tail as a prebiotic, and then we started using chlorella, which is from the sea, and we did the same research project on that to prove that it was incredibly beneficial to grow bacteria. And it is full of antioxidants and full of incredible health benefits as well. So all the prebiotics that ABA uses are not just sugar-based prebiotics. All the prebiotics that we use, they have a lot of medicinal value. And then as far as our probiotics go, the 14 strains were the 14 strains that I picked at my hospital. So that when I started seeing so many sick patients, I went through hundreds and hundreds of different strains, and I handpicked those based on what I saw in my practice, and also what I saw was the most beneficial. So I used all different kinds with lots and lots of different patients, and then I wound up choosing those ones just based on my clinical experience of which ones worked and which ones didn't work. And then we've really branched off in the last few years with species-oriented probiotics, which are the first probiotics ever to be researched with dogs and cats and horses to prove that they maintain their integrity and their viability in the acidity of a cat's gut, a dog's gut, and a horse's gut, which is very, very, very different than people. All of them, our acidity and our way, the length of our bowels, how they work, how we digest is quite different than other species. So we did a lot of research on that. And with that, we have shown the incredible value of the postbiotic values of these. And what postbiotics are the magic that happens between a prebiotic and a probiotic. So you can't purchase postbiotics. Postbiotics are the amazing effects that happen with the correct pre and probiotics when they work together. So those are things like creating short chain fatty acids, being able to produce the vitamins and minerals that we need, hormone function, immune modulation. I mean, the reducing pathogenic bacteria like E. coli, salmonella, and Clostridium. So it is a fascinating thing to research all of these different species-oriented bacterias and produce probiotics from that. So, okay, what was the other questions? So that's what they are, and that's how ours are different.
You already answered, like, are there any differences between them? So yes, there are. But I think
I want just read what you had
okay.
said.
So why do we have so many different probiotic formulas? Are there any differences between them? And the final one would be, what were you considering when you formulated each of them?
Was there another one in between that, though? There was like, what is a pre and probiotic, and what makes ABAs different? Was there another one right after that?
What they're good for? We have some more questions. Yeah, I just these are from the 5 questions that I asked you at the same.
Okay, so they're very different. They're all very different. and they're formulated for different reasons. So the reason we have so many formulas is for a really good reason. And that's because I'm always telling people to rotate their probiotics so that the animals are getting different probiotics at the same time. I also know how crazy busy people are. So when I first started to formulate them at my practice, I formulated them so that when people rotated them, because I'm a homeopath and I'm a functional practitioner, it's important for me to make sure that I have eyeballs on every system of the body, right? So, the bladder, the intestine, all the different areas of the body. So as an example, we have probiotics in our gut soothe, right? So all that would function to help to decrease inflammation and increase pliability, increase soothing effects, but not just on the gut, on the sinuses, on the lungs. So when you're feeding gut soothe, you are actually supporting your animal's lungs, their intestinal wall, their sinuses, their mucosal lining of their throat. So it's doing a lot more than just feeding probiotics. So I love to be able to go, okay, so we spent 2 months on this one particular formula. And in that 2 months, over the course of a year, over the course of 6 months or whatever, if we're going to rotate them, I feel good to know that our customers or my patients when I was in my clinic have done a tune-up, for lack of better words, on those systems. And then, our easy peasy one for bladder, we're giving probiotics. And in those probiotics, there's a very specific probiotic in that helps to remove bacteria from the actual bladder. It's a particular probiotic that the bacteria, like urinary tract bacteria, binds to so that it's flushed out, right? So but all the other ones support the gut. It supports the mucosal lining of the bladder. So we're not just ever focused on one thing. We're way too high level of a company, or just the way I formulate that I'm very conscious of doing that. So by rotating through, then if you use the digestive enzyme, right? So then we're working on enzymatic production of the gut to be sure that your animals are digesting their food correctly. But what is so brilliant is when we actually rotate them, we're producing an overall wellness effect within all the systems and the entire body, right? And then if we go into Fido's Flora or Felix Flora or equine gut soothe, right? We're putting the species specific strains into that. So we're adding a completely different level of bacteria and different strains of bacteria to diversify the gut microbiome, because we want to plant as many different things as we can in the gut. And then if we go into wolf, like with Fido's Flora and Felix Flora, we also have fulvic and humic acid, which helps almost like a chelation therapy. So let's say you've gone from gut soothe and you're going into Fido's Flora. So we're soothing, we're doing all of that amazing stuff with gut soothe along with planting bacteria. Then we go into Fido's Flora and we're adding the species strains. And then we're using fulvic and humic acid in it, because that fulvic and humic acid helps to almost like a chelation. So it's packed full of different kinds of minerals, like organic ancient minerals, but then it also helps to detoxify the body. So then we're doing something different, right? So we're doing we're catching the body in different things that could be happening with the body. I almost like to say off guard, because what that means is we're like, okay, so we're not getting used to one thing, we're adding another thing. So then the body goes, okay, awesome, because I've just been running outside and I've been, walking through glyphosates and I've been doing all of this different stuff. So then we're looking at a detoxification process, right? Which is really important. And then if we look at the wolf strain, right, which is a completely different kettle of fish, because it's like, we have this wild strain that, in my hopes with that, and what we've seen happening, which is amazing, is it has a very strong affinity with the gut-brain axis. We see it really helping dogs with their stress levels. We see it really helping animals with anxiety and aggression. So we're bringing that sort of fingerprint of that wolf and that resiliency and that calmness of being in the wild, and having a bacteria that's like a virgin bacteria. It hasn't had vaccines. It hasn't had any kind of antibiotics or medications. So then you're adding something different again. So when you're going through all of this stuff, and I know you have a soil and sea question, so I'm not going to talk about that till you ask me the question. So when we're rotating through all of these things, we're really paying attention to all the systems of the body. We're paying attention to how to keep the body clean, how to keep it healthy, and we're diversifying the bacteria.
That's very interesting. You were already touching bases in my other question, that it's about rotation. So you explain a little bit about why you have so many different formulas and the importance of rotating them.
Yep.
So I maybe want to go a little bit deeper on this and ask you, so again, maybe can you explain a little fast, why do we need to rotate? Like, do we need to rotate, like, why? And should we start with any one in a specific, and then there's an order to follow, or no? And for how long we can keep using just one probiotic and then changing to another?
So there is no right or wrong, right? So when it comes to ABA and my formulations, people just do the best they can. So no one's going to do I have formulated every one of those products to be really, really good products that are going to be, really helpful for your animals. Ideal is different than right or wrong. Ideally, if we can rotate, we continue. I always say that the gut needs to have education. And that's why I don't like, that's why I really try to steer people away from antibiotics, or steer people away from, sterilized food, like, commercial foods and things like that. Because if we aren't, the same way we have to educate our brains, keep our brains, like, they say, when you get older, you're supposed to keep doing like puzzles and things like that. You want to exercise your brain to keep your brain sharp, right? The same with our muscles. If we don't exercise our muscles, we lose our muscle tone. It's the same with our bacteria. If we don't, my opinion, my hypothesis, if we don't continue to challenge our animals' bodies and our own bodies with things like other bacterias and yeasts and all of that stuff, I don't believe in eradicating anything, nothing. I believe that we need to continue to keep our guts educated with allowing pathogenic bacteria to enter and be around it, so that the bacteria stays educated. But we want to make sure that we have enough bacteria and different kinds of bacteria that we can educate it as much as we can. So the more you rotate, and the different strains and the different prebiotics and all of that different things create differences in the body. Even using our different prebiotics will help native bacteria that's in the gut. So native bacteria is bacteria that you're born with. And transient bacteria is bacteria that you take from probiotics, and they come and go. So what we have found is that prebiotics are of massive importance, because they're going to be feeding the bacteria that aren't in probiotics, that you get from your animals get from eating the ground or eating bacteria on something, or that has been living in their body from their ancestors and their mothers from the get-go, right? So to rotate your prebiotics, rotate your probiotics, is just making your gut health more diverse and resilient and educated. That's the easiest way to describe it, I think. But I need to say that if you have an animal that is sick, like let's say you have an IBD animal, right? So an inflammatory bowel disease animal, or whatever, there's something that your animal is suffering from, and you've tried ABA products, and one product particularly works better than the other one, then you should stay with it. It's how your dog or your cat or your horse shows you it's healthy is how you know what's going on in its microbiome. So and also what it needs. So if your dog is doing better on, let's say gut soothe, I'm just going to use a simple one of gut soothe. And when you take them off of gut soothe and then you put them on just Fido's Flora, or you put them on just healthy gut, or you just put them on the wolf or soil and sea or whatever, and they don't do as well, that's telling you that your dog has a larger problem with its mucosal lining, and it needs assistance in its mucosal lining more than it needs assistance in its diversity of bacteria. It's super simple. There's no right or wrong. So you can have your animal on gut soothe forever. It's not going to hurt them if they're doing well, right? And then I know lots of people, what they do is they're like, gut soothe is like the thing I have to use for my dog, or it gets diarrhea, or this happens, or that happens. There's nothing wrong with getting soil and sea, wolf strain, or Fido, like a completely different thing, and giving it to them as well twice a week, or going like, okay, in the morning I'm going to do gut soothe, and then evening I'm going to do a Fido's Flora or a wolf, or I'm going to do gut soothe 5 days a week, and Wednesday and Saturday I'm going to add a different one, right? So you're not taking them off of one and putting them on another one. You're just adding to it.
Amazing.
Does that answer them?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is a period that we need to use, like let's say that I want to like first use gut soothe and then I don't know Fido's, and then keep going. Should I use the bottom to the jar into the end, or should I use I don't know, for a month?
You do it to make it simple. Simple works for me, and it works for the majority. It's worked for the majority of my clients and patients. So I think if simplicity works, then do it, which is use one jar, empty the jar, use another jar.
Okay, amazing.
That jar, use another jar. Saying that though, I feel like what's very important in that is paying attention. So how is your dog on gut soothe? How's your dog on Phytoflora? How's your dog on the wolf strain? How's your cat on feline gut soothe? How's your cat on Felix Flora? How's your cat on love bugs? Right? So how's your cat on soil and sea? Right? Like, pay attention, because your animal is going to tell you if one of them resonates better than another.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll know to go back to that one or whatever. You just have to pay attention. And the fact that we have, you know, 100% money back guarantee, if you're trying one and it's not working for your animal, then you just send it back, right? Like you're not going to be invested in something that's not going to work. So that is how I rotate it. But again, I keep going back to inflammatory bowel disease and stuff because there's so much of it. There's nothing stopping you if you find one that works, or soil and sea is really working, but you really want to use wolf. You really want to try the wolf one. Then you do the soil and sea for, 3 weeks to a month. And then you continue using soil and sea and you add 1 day of wolf, right? And see how they do. They do well on 1 day of wolf, then you can add 2 days of wolf, but not together. Like I said, a Tuesday and Saturday, right? So that you're always giving them the one that they're doing the best on. And then you can play with it if they're doing well, right? There's no ironclad rules for this as long as your animal's doing well. The only thing that we have that's kind of cool is we have that relief protocol, right, with them, so that if you have dogs with really bad yeast or really, really bad allergies, we've developed, or I developed a little bit of a protocol of how to reduce their suffering, literally, by alternating the 3 different ones, right? So, which is Fido's Flora, Yeasty Beast, and the Leaky Gut Protocol, or Gut Soothe, right? So, that's something a bit more specific, and there's a lot of reasoning behind that.
Okay, great. So now it's the science that you spoiler that we were gonna have a question about it. So why soil probiotics are beneficial, and we say our soil and sea is good for SIBO, but aside from that, when can it be used?
So SIBO is called
SIBO, sorry.
That's all right. Small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So a lot of people don't even know what that is. And it can look like IBD. It can look like pancreatitis. It can look like GERD, like acid reflux. There's a lot of undiagnosed small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So it's probably as prevalent as leaky gut syndrome, but it's higher up. It's in the small intestine. So that's why we say that it's good for that. So soil and sea is a completely different species of bacteria, right? It's made from soil rather than cow's milk or lactose or more of a animal product. It's made from the soil. So why I feel, and the one that we have is organic, and it's an very old soil bacteria. The species is from soil from a long time ago, which it took us a long time to find that actual one. And I'm over the moon about it, because to me, the older the bacteria, the better. Like when it came from a long time ago, the better, because it's much more unaltered than now. So when you're ingesting the soil bacteria, or you're ingesting it, I'm saying that now because I'm actually taking it right now. When you're giving it to your animals, you're planting the seeds of something completely different. So it's really going to diversify that bacteria in the gut, because you've got bifidus, you've got lactobacillus, you've got the wolf strain, you've got all of these different amazing species. And then when you add the soil one, it excites me because our soils are so depleted of bacteria. So our food is depleted in bacteria. So when normally 80 years ago or 50 years ago, when your dog was eating food, especially if it was eating raw food or hunting, it would be getting natural soil bacteria because the food that it was eating would be eating plants and vegetables and grasses and ingesting that bacteria from the soil. And probably so would your animals be, if they're digging, if they're burying bone, not cats, but if they're burying bones and stuff. The dogs that when I grew up on my farm, they buried bones all the time, and they would go and dig up the bones, and the bones would just be like full of dirt, and then they would be gnawing on the dirt. So they'd be ingesting dirt all of the time. So by using soil-based bacteria, my goal and my hope is that we're feeding the microbiome of the gut a lot of the old bacteria that would be so much more beneficial that we aren't getting on our sterilized food anymore, because all food is sterilized. And then the chlorella as a prebiotic, to me, dirt and minerals go hand in hand. So dirt and minerals and stuff from the ocean and stuff on the land go hand in hand, because the planet was completely covered in water as an ocean. So I feel like it's like this perfect combination. So even though the chlorella that we use is actually from like you can get it from all different places, but it's a chlorella from a very specific fresh water. And the reason that I chose that is because of its antioxidant level, right? So that you're feeding a probiotic, but you're also feeding really high amounts of antioxidants, which help fight diseases and oxidation of the cells and diseases and things like that.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Amazing, thank you. I have another question here. So you said before that our probiotics are not the same, of course, and each one has its own particularity. So can you explain why are the colony forming units in Fido's Flora way less than our other probiotics?
Yep. And so and also in wolf is less too. The reason, so is Felix, Flora, and there's a really good reason for that. So because they've never been regular probiotics that people take, which are on all the strains of all the products, all the probiotics out there that people are feeding their animals, are strains that are incredible, and they work really, really well because we know that through empirical proof of seeing that they work, but they aren't tested in the species of a dog or a cat or a horse. So when I started in practice, there was no research showing how many colony forming units we needed in a dog in comparison to a person. And they're so different. Like our pH is so different than the pH of a prey animal, like a dog or a cat. And it's also quite different than a horse, but not as much as a dog or a cat. So when people were only putting 1 billion colony forming, not 1 billion, 1 million colony forming units in their pet products, I was putting 30 million and 30 billion and giving tons and tons more, because I didn't have the research that made me feel confident that they were going to land where they needed to go, be able to stay viable in the acidity rate of the gut of a dog or a cat, and then go to where it needed to go in the large intestine in order to colonize, right, and set up shop. So I did a lot. I used a lot, and it worked really, really well. So for me, it's always like, if it's not broken. If it's not, don't try and fix it. So for, 22 years, those were the amounts of colony forming units that I was using and getting phenomenal results. When we started doing the research on species oriented probiotics, we did that research to show how many you needed in order to colonize and maintain, and did it actually survive the gastric juices and the gastric enzymes and pH of a dog or a cat, and it did. So we didn't have to use nearly as much. So, for me, you can tell a lot in certain things, how I practice and how I formulate. In certain things, to me, less is more. So for me, it's all about the formula and synergistically working with the ingredients from nature that synergistically work together. Because if you're just, I'm just going to use the word milk thistle for 2 seconds. I know that's not a probiotic, but if you're just using milk thistle on its own, you're going to have to use a lot more than if you were using milk thistle, chelidonium, and berberis together, because you're just focusing on the liver, right? And you're just using one ingredient. That's not how really nature rolls, right? When animals are out there and they're choosing to eat an herb because they know intuitively that their livers are not working very well, or they're eating milk thistle or eating an herb to protect their liver and be proactive, which happens constantly in nature. They're not just going and eating that one thing, right? They're eating a multitude of things that have a synergistic ability to create more homeostasis. So when you're protecting and supporting the gallbladder, the pancreas, the liver, and the kidneys, all of that's going to work together to create a much more powerful and impactful healing process or proactive process, in compares to giving huge amounts of an ingredient and just using one thing. So the way I formulate for ABA and how I did it at my practice is I choose ingredients that are complementary and that work together synergistically with that system that we're looking at, so that I don't have to overdo it. That's why I don't worry about if someone wants to stay on gut soothe forever, because of the amounts of stuff that I put in it. I don't ever worry about getting them toxic or giving too much of something, like Rita Hogan, our who's a herbalist. One of her favorite things is our liver tonic, because she said that she feels like it's so safe, but it's super powerful. So the same holds. So that's exactly why we put what we put in with the wolf and the Fido's Flora and stuff, is because I only want to use what I have to use. I don't like oversizing, supersizing, blowing it out of the water with like huge amounts. I like to give what the body needs so that homeostasis can happen.
Thanks. One maybe last question from the list that I have is: can I give larch to my dog on its own every day?
I wouldn't. Larch
Why?
is because it's quite fibrous,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's again, larch is best given for a reason. So larch's biggest benefit is as a prebiotic, and then its incredible other talents that it has is this immune modulation and being able to help with supporting the non-reactive to sort of derail cancer cells and in metastases and things like that, right? So to just give your cat or dog something like larch, which is a very potent fiber, that's why I would be a little concerned that you might create gas, you know, and it's kind of something that for me, it's better in combination.
Got it. So now we have some questions here in the Q&A, and I'm gonna start reading
A
them.
lot.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if everybody else that's from ABA in here, I wonder if Kaylin and Emily too could be looking at these questions.
They are looking like they answered
Are they?
25
Just so,
already.
because maybe we can also, if they're similar ones, you know what I mean? If the questions are similar, we can try and oh, Emily's like, we are.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tracy's there. Good. Awesome. So if we see similar ones, then maybe we can lump them together too. So that we
Okay.
get as many answered as possible.
Okay. So Violeta is asking 7-month kitten sick with calicivirus, clear mouth, has soft stools and soils the house. Mostly pee on dog beds and or my bed. Drinks water more than I expect for a raw-fed cat. Pees often 4 or 5 times a day. At times pees a small amount, then leaves the litter box. Other times he pees way more. Often, not always, cries when he pees or poops. Oh, poor. Poor him, hates having his bun touched. When I try to clean it, he fights me and cries. He gets pumpkin plus slippery elm, gut tooth, cranimol, cranberry powder for animals, Prue Boost, thymic protein A, protein A, haze herbs twice a day with his meals. Urine test negative with pH 7, hence the cranimol. Questions: what can I do for diarrhea for house soiling? Soiling.
So I'm wondering, I mean, diarrhea is one thing. Soiling in the house, maybe because he's in pain from his calicivirus, you know. Sick kitten, calicivirus, clear mouth. So doesn't have ulcers or anything. I don't know what she's, if the animal has any kind of if there's symptomatic of calicivirus, because you know calici can show in a lot of different ways. It can show in like upper respiratory, it can show in sneezing, it can show in runny eyes, it can show all of that stuff. So I'm not sure if it's doing that. The first thing that I'm wondering if his bum must hurt. So, you know, obviously you've had him checked out by a vet because that would be really important. But when I hear and see this, what I've seen by working with so many rescue cats, like tons and tons of rescue cats, is that if they don't want their bum touched with that, it usually means that their stools are acrid. And acrid means like acidy. It's burning their bum when they're pooping. So it's either they've got like maybe some kind of like a fistula or some kind of a crack in the skin of their anus, or their stool is just really acid and it's burning their bum when they're pooping. So I would be careful giving too much cranberry, because cranberry is going to make the urine and the stool more acid. So I would be a little concerned about that, about giving it, because we have cranberry in our, did she say that she's giving easy peasy?
No, I don't see that.
So I would try easy peasy because of the nag in it and stuff. It's going to sort of counteract the too much of the cranberry. And pumpkin cyprium, gutsu, the cranberry powder for animals. Yeah. Using the easy peasy, it's a very low amount of cranberry. But when you add it with, like I said, the nag and all of the other things that are in it, and specifically that one probiotic that pulls out bacteria, I would try that. I would try decreasing the cranberry extract, and I would try adding that. And, 7 months old, you want to get a hold of this, or else you could possibly have a cat with a lifelong problem of being scared to go in the litter box because it's hurting him, right? So they make this association. They go in the litter box and they poo or they pee and it hurts, and then they don't even finish, and they jump out of the litter box and go and poo and pee, or pee on the dog beds, right? Because it's soft like litter, and they don't have the association. They don't have the association with pain as much as they do with the litter box. So I would definitely try that. And then there's lots of homeopathic remedies for that. So you could reach out to Andrea Ring, but arsenicum is a really good one. It's a great one. Arsenicum album 30C to try with him. Our go-to, because of the arnica, would have a soothing effect on the bum, and also maybe try it might help to soothe it, and then take away sort of like the fear pain association with that. Felix Flora, to alternate Felix Flora with that could be helpful as well, because then you're putting actually the cat bacteria into it. And also, one last thing I would be thinking for that is Phytosynergy, because the phytoplankton is incredible for IBD, like unbelievable for IBD. And it also has superoxide dismutase in it. So it helps to fight free radicals, which with calici, they're constantly doing that. So you almost have to increase their antioxidant level to be sure that that viral load stays maintained.
Good, great, thank you. So we are having some questions about urinary health, so maybe we can address that. So what's the best probiotic for urinary health, or to address urinary issues such as UTIs or protein in the urine?
Yeah, the Saccharomyces is the one that's in the is a very specific one that's in easy peasy. So for anybody that's having any urinary tract issues, because it's also got the 14 strains, right? But it's got nag, and it's got slippery elm, and it's got this one specific bacteria in it that helps to pull out bacteria. So anybody out there that's got problems with their animals with urinary tract stuff, definitely easy peasy, definitely. And then if you're gonna do easy peasy, and you're that's when you could be like, okay, easy peasy is gonna be every day, and then a Tuesday and a Friday I'm gonna add the wolf strain, or I'm gonna add the soil and sea, or I'm gonna add Felix Flora. If it's cat, Felix Flora, you could add those twice a week, and then maintain them with the easy peasy.
Okay, great. So Christina is asking here if are avian probiotics something ABA is planning on researching, developing someday. I've been doing research trying to figure out if gut soot would be safe for budgies. The death rate in budgies due to GI liver issues is crazy high, and avian vets are completely clueless.
Well, I am not an avian vet, and I can't directly say yay or nay, but all my chickens, like my chickens, which are avian, well, they're poultry, but they're very similar. And I had a whole bunch of rescue canaries, and with my chickens, I give them gut soothe and Fido synergy. Like I sprinkle it on if they've got any kind of issues at all. And with my canary, I used Fido synergy and love bugs. So it's something that I used personally, but can you get their information? And I'm going to reach out to Jake and ask Jake.
Okay. We are also having a lot of different questions, similar questions, I would say, about yeast. So when are probiotics recommended for yeast? And if they are, which ones would you recommend?
So if yeast is truly an issue, like if it's yeast, you've got twofold happening, right? So what the yeast does to the gut, it needs to go through a leaky gut protocol at some point once you finish dealing with yeast. So my favorite thing to do with yeast is to try the Yeasty Beast protocol, and then after 2 weeks, assess how your dog's doing. If your dog is continuing to improve, you can continue with the protocol. If it stops improving or starts to relapse, what could very well be, like if it starts to get better and then all of a sudden it starts to get worse again, or it just stays stagnant, you could be getting something called a Herx reaction, which is the die-off is too fast. And in that case, that's when we start the leaky gut protocol, right? And we do that for 2 weeks. And then we go into Fido's Flora and do that for 2 weeks. Then we go back to Yeasty Beast. Then we go into Fido's Flora again. Then that's what I would do, reach out and get our relief protocol. If you're using, but let's say the Yeasty Beast is working and you're just continuing to use the Yeasty Beast protocol, when you're done, you should still use a leaky gut protocol, because the damage that it does to the gut wall is horrific. So you are going to want to bring that integrity back. But we only have one type of probiotic in the Yeasty Beast, and that's specifically for yeast. We don't have any other probiotics.
Got it.
And that's because if you use too much probiotics, you can get a die-off. And the die-off looks exactly like the yeast is getting worse.
Oh.
So what happens is that the yeast dies too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and you get a Herx reaction, because there's about 15 toxic chemicals that yeast produce, but when they die, they produce like 10 times the toxins.
Wow.
So you could actually be doing amazing stuff and really, creating this great, you're destroying the yeast. But if you do it too fast, you're going to wind up back at the vets, and then you're going to go back on ketoconazole or whatever, because it looks exactly like the yeast is getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like the symptoms of a yeast die-off is very similar to the symptoms of having yeast. So that's why we have to be really mindful of, was it getting better and then all of a sudden it's getting worse? Because if that's the case, then probably the yeast is dying too fast with Yeasty Beast. And then you would do the relief protocol. right? If you're just going along it smooth, then you can just keep doing it. And then once your dog hits a place where it's looking really good, then you can switch into the doing just one single protocol of the leaky gut, and then you can start your rotations.
Wow, amazing. Thanks. So much things that we need to consider. It's yeah. So this question, it's from Eliza or Eliza. She's from Australia, which I think it's amazing to have someone from the other side of the world here with us. So her question is, it's about pre and probiotics when the issue is constipation and mobility issues. When it's constipation, sometimes pre and probiotics or right ones can make it worse, or that's
so yeah, motility.
motility. Oh, I read, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. Motility can happen for lots of different reasons, but to me, the constipation and motility issues, you want to stay away from prebiotics that are predominantly sugar. So like FOS, maltodextrin, inulin, those are the prebiotics. I wouldn't be worried so much about the probiotics as much as I do the prebiotics. So you want to be using prebiotics that have more of a medicinal or more of a functional activity. And I would say constipation and motility start with the species oriented rather than the human ones.
Simone is asking, what is the best way to give my dog a probiotic pill? Should I leave it whole or open it and sprinkle on his food?
Well, for me, anything like that, I wouldn't give in a capsule for lots of different reasons. It's more like a personal personal thing from that perspective. I believe, and it also depends, right? Like it depends on what your dog's symptoms are, that sort of stuff. But I always like having them in their food, and the reason why is because probiotics in the wild would have been ingested through the guts of their prey and through the food that they eat, right? They would be ingested. They wouldn't be swallowed and then the capsule dissolves and whatever. Like I understand the concept behind that to be sure that it, gets to sort of where it needs to go and things like that. But if it's a good probiotic and there's enough colony forming units, or it's a species oriented one, it should be going there anyways.
That's good, because you already answered Jennifer's question that it's why is the best way to offer probiotics. I have heard not to give them with food.
Right.
Yeah.
I go back to nature with everything. I look at how, when animals and people weren't suffering with so many chronic diseases. So 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, even like 50 years ago. When I look back at that and I think about how were we getting our pre and probiotics, that's where I go. I don't go to sort of like modern science, because modern science is great. I'm a science nerd. I mean, I do research constantly with Dalhousie University and with a microbiology lab. I love science, but I feel like nature knows better, 1,000 times better than science. I think science gives us maybe gives us some support in what we should really already know from nature. So for me, when it comes to probiotics, I would not be giving them away from food.
Great. Carrie is saying that my standard poodle has 1.3 blood test reading for adrenal gland function, but ACTH test was 8.
Where is this?
It's right above, like right below Simone question. Carrie Brown.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, now it's the first one.
Okay.
Sorry. So mid-range for the lab used. What do you suggest? My standard poodle has 1.3 blood test reading for adrenal gland function, but ACTH test was 8. Mid-range for the lab used. What do you suggest?
Andrea ring. Seriously, like everybody has to do what they're comfortable doing, but depending on the symptoms and the symptoms of your dog, we worked with so many Cushing's symptoms and Addison's symptoms that it was amazing. So if it's not life-threatening, if you're not in a life-threatening situation, I would give Andrea Ring a call, and I would be using a homeopathic protocol that we used to use in our practice. But it's great to work with your vet with this at the same time. And it's a really amazing way. It's so interesting. Like I've had two vet hospitals out here reach out to me about Cushing protocols and things like that, like homeopathic, because a lot of dogs don't do well on the drugs, right? They're in that range where they're not fully, yes, this is what they have, or not have. When it comes to Addison's, you're in a little bit different, thank you. How do I reach out to my adrenal question is not an emergency. Yeah. Okay. So someone can someone put Andrea's thing in the chat, please?
Yeah.
But there's lots of things you can do. You can do adrenal glandular supplements, which is amazing. You can do the protocols, but with Addison's is a lot more dangerous than Cushing's, and from a perspective of making sure that you're working with your vet. But it's nice to work with your vet. I'd love to see what the your dog's liver enzymes are, and it's really nice to work with your vet, especially Cushing's animals, because they do so well, and the vets are usually really impressed with how well they're doing.
Amazing. Kimberly is asking, I have a male that sometimes have early morning bile vomit. He can sometimes have some soft poop. We use Felix Flora and various other products you have. Just want to help him as much as I can. Thank you.
So I don't know what this kitty's on food-wise, but with anything that has morning bile, I don't know if you've tried this, but I always try to give them food before bed, like to save a third of their, like, I don't know how often, if it's on raw, save like a third or a small amount of each meal, so that you're not like overfeeding them. A small amount of each meal, and you're giving it to them just before you go to bed, so that they have food in their stomachs over the night. So that's he's on raw. I do give him food before bed. So I wonder what kind of food. I'm wondering, has he had this bile episode his whole life? Have you tried him on different, if he's vomiting in the morning, are you keeping a journal, like, does he vomit if he eats pork? Let's just say, is there more bile in the morning if he's eating pork compared to rabbit, or compared to stuff like that, like, just is it protein related, or is there something in them in a mix, like a particular vegetable or whatever? Try and look at which days he vomits, or is it every day? He can have some soft poop, So definitely, I don't even know what I'm thinking. Gut soothe. This cat needs to be on gut soothe, and the gut soothe should be given in his bedtime snack. That's the first thing I would try.
Great. There's another question here. Would multi-strain probiotic like love bugs be of benefit to a non-mammalian gut, like small flock chickens?
I give them to my chickens. So,
Yes.
you know, and you know, multi-strain probiotic, or even I'm trying to think, I gave my guys, the last time they had something going on, I gave them soil and sea, because it's really soil based, right? Which is much more, but you know, the chickens eat bugs and all kinds of stuff. So again, whoever that is, the anonymous attendee, if they want to let us know who they are so we could reach back out to them, I am going to ask our microbiologist if there's a particular one that's better for chickens and for birds.
Great. So there's a question from Terry. Sorry?
What about Hannah Lee?
It's just Kaylin. It's typing some answers, so I don't know if she's answering her. So that's why
I want to say her, because I know her from BC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I will ask her question then. Hi, Julie. My 10-year-old neuter dog, who has suffered from allergies pretty much his whole life, developed a IBD the last couple of years. I had to put him on a hydrolyzed diet to help with it. Can he start Yeast Beast protocol while on this diet?
Hydrolyzed protein, I would be putting him on either the wolf strain or soil and sea. And that's because you don't want to add anything that has protein in it, right? In some lactose, like, you know, they're supposed to be free from that, but allergies most of his life. Hannah Lee, you could do the relief protocol probably with him if he's really that bad. But I think with, if it's allergies is one thing, then if it's yeast, right? If he's been diagnosed with yeast, then you could start the Yeast Beast protocol. Yes. If he's been diagnosed with allergies or food reactivity, it sounds like it, food sensitivities, then you may want to start with the soil and sea or the wolf first, and just see how it goes first of all.
Okay, great.
But
sorry,
if he's really, really, really itchy, I would probably go straight into Fido Synergy and the relief protocol. And in the relief protocol, you've got liver tonic. So like making sure that he stays on liver tonic the whole entire time.
Good. So now Terry's question, can digestive enzymes disrupt a healthy dog's natural balance and suppress the pancreas with chronic use? Many probiotic supplements also include digestive enzymes, stating it eases the digestive workload on the body and is perfectly safe for both healthy and unhealthy dogs. Are they beneficial and safe if used on occasion and in a rotation, or should you stay clear of them?
They're good in rotation. Like for me, I really support rotation of digestive enzymes. So not staying on them all the time. But the other thing, Terry, depends on what they're eating. If a dog is eating kibble, for me, there would be no concern of staying on them all the time. because their pancreas has to work phenomenally overtime to digest, and their whole digestive tract needs to overwork with dry food, right? So wetting the food and putting like our healthy gut on it all the time, I would have absolutely no concern with. A dog eating a fresh raw food diet, I'd alternate it. That's what I would do.
Okay, so thank you. Sandra is asking a lot of things, I guess. I have heard pre might be more important than pro. Would you agree? How would you suggest giving supplements in my cat who sniffs everything that is added? Can I mix in water and use a syringe? Where can I get microbiome testing in Ontario, in Canada? My vet said he wouldn't know what to do with the results with that. Where would the results direct me? My 3 girls each have issues, Gigi, IBD, Kiki, autoimmune issues with stomatitis, and Coco with recent vomiting and eating less than usual, no matter what I offer. We are using feline gut soot and turkey tail mushrooms.
Okay. I would alternate those with Felix Flora, obviously, to get the actual feline strain, the species feline strain into your cats for sure. You can get I don't know whether the test in the States, I'm pretty sure you can send it from Canada. Oh God, guys, what's it called? Emily and Terry and you guys, what is the microbiome testing in the US with Holly?
Animal biome.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure Animal Biome does it in from Canada, and your vet doesn't have to know because they tell you what to do with your cat, but they don't offer species oriented. I think they have like transplant pills, but I would try, first of all, with both of them, I would definitely try Felix Flora and Fido Synergy, both of them. And I mean, turkey tail is awesome if you can get them to eat turkey tail, but I have the pickiest cats on the planet, and my cats will all eat Felix Flora, and they'll eat Fido Synergy. They'll eat Fido Synergy like right off the spoon.
Great, thank you, Julie. Lorraine, oh, sorry.
And the person that was saying about also is pre as important. My opinion is it is more important that you're using a species specific pre, and then it's very important that the two of them go together, because you're going to hear that pre is more important than pro. Well, what pre? Right? Like what pre? We have to make sure that the prebiotics that we're using are functional prebiotics. One, and what people aren't really understanding when they say one is better than the other is they're not understanding postbiotics. And the postbiotic effect is that magic that I said happens with a functional prebiotic and a really good probiotic. So I don't think one is more important than the other. I think the synergistic combination of the right pre and probiotics together is what is the most important.
Great, thank you, Julie. Lorraine is asking, how can a person be sure their animal has a good microbiome? My vet ran a test for my dog and said she had a quite healthy gut biome, but I can't help but wonder what kind of test and how accurate it could be. I didn't get a chance to ask them that yet. And yay, the ABA for providing the gut product for creating her gut biome.
So for me, it's all about observation. I just did a lecture, a big lecture a week ago or whenever I did it, for California about observation and understanding. And like I said, science is amazing, but science definitely doesn't even, we haven't even scratched the surface with gut health. And we're running into a very slippery slope with it because it's becoming more and more popular. And I think everybody knows that I wrote about, it's a funny story that I wrote. I have I had a column in the Vancouver Sun, and I wrote about how good pre and probiotics were for dogs and cats in 2006. And the Vet Association fined me and made me retract it because they said that there was no proof. So now we have all this proof, and it's becoming like crazy insane. It's in everything and it's everywhere. But we're in that slippery slope of now we're compartmentalizing it. We're not looking at it as its entirety. And if anything in the entire world is in its entirety, it's bacteria and the gut microbiome. So when we get too anal about getting that and this is this and this is that, and we got to use this and we got to use that, we're going to degrade the intelligence and the intellect and the wisdom that the microbiome has actually in the gut. So the best way to know whether your gut's microbiome, your dog or your cat's or your horse or our microbiome is the best is observation. Is your dog healthy? Isn't it healthy? Where's its health lacking? If I use this probiotic, this is how my dog acts after 3 months, right? If I use that probiotic, this is how my dog acts. I would like to understand what that healthy gut biome even is, because we are all individuals, and every single solitary gut of every single person, animal out there is different. It's as different as our, like saying, oh, in this moment, in this the second that I am collecting that poop to do this test, I assume that in that test I can see everything. That test is just is in that moment in time. It's what that dog ate, what that cat ate, the stress levels it's gone through, what its hormones doing in that minute. To say that I can look at a gut microbiome and say that it's healthy it's awesome for people that do that and subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that because I feel like, again, we're downplaying it way too much. So for me, diversity, rotation, adding probiotics and prebiotics every day and rotating them, and food, soil bacteria, phenomenally important. Things like phytoplankton, things like chlorella, things like turkey tail, adding stuff that constantly educates the gut is vitally important.
Great, thank you, Julie. Tony is asking about digestive enzymes and how it works versus just the standalone probiotic product. I ran a senior dog sanctuary, and I recently rescued a dog that was in a bad shape, backyard kept on a chain, not enough food. I have been giving her healthy gut because I think she needed the digest enzymes. I notice all your other products do not add the digest enzymes, nor do you sell just a digest enzymes to add to other products. My dogs are not fed kibble. they eat whole cooked foods, but I also juice for them so they have a quarter cup of live greens juice every other day. Why do you not have a digestive enzyme to add to the other products, or why it's important for one and not for all the others? It gets confusing as to when and why we need enzymes.
Because I don't think they need it all the time. Like I would never put a digestive enzyme in all of our products. Like I would never do that. I think it's really important for animals that are on kibble. Like I said, really, really important. It's important if a dog has, is lacking in digestive enzymes, if they have I don't know what just happened. Oh, I think we just left. Whether that is it's pancreas, whether that's from stress, I'm not sure. But the reason that I have digestive enzymes and probiotics together, it was one of the first ones that we came out with. And I felt that for animals that needed digestive enzymes, it was from an expense point of view, it was easier to do for people. It was also just easier for people that were using kibble to just have that one product. But we are going to come out with the digestive enzyme just on its own. If in case you're wondering, we are actually doing that, so that it can just be rotated with other probiotics and the other probiotics in our line. If you feel like your animals need a digestive enzyme, for me, we should always be rotating it unless they're on dry food. Saying that, you can give it if your dog has issues with digestion. And then you can, because it's the 14 strains, you can add the soil and sea, and you can rotate the Fido's Flora, and you can also rotate the wolf strain in that. So yes, we are coming out was a good question. We are coming out with a digestive enzyme on its own, but it's a really simple product for a lot of people to do that have cost constraints and time constraints. So it was something that we first came out with because, in my opinion, even raw fed animals, because we don't put the bits in it, we're not getting the entire whole food completely ground, like guts and brains and eyeballs and thyroid glands and adrenal glands and the pancreas and all of that stuff. Even raw food doesn't have the digestive, we still fall short in the digestive enzyme category than if they were going out and hunting and killing their prey and eating their prey. So I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Julie. We are running out of time, but I want to ask like maybe one final question that it's because I think it's a question that maybe lots of our customers have too. So what probiotics do I use for my dog just diagnosed it with cancer?
So that's a really good question. And also, I don't know what you're doing, if the dog's going to be getting chemotherapy or you're going to be going completely alternative or integrative. But it's definitely an important piece when you're doing chemotherapy, because the immune system is so incredibly taxed that it's important to keep the immune system not hyperimmune. So the reason that a lot of chemotherapists and oncologists and things are afraid to use probiotics is because, or alternative integrative medicine, is because they're afraid that it's going to negate the effects of the chemotherapy. Using the correct probiotic and the correct prebiotic, nothing should be negated and everything should just be sort of stabilized, especially when you're using pre and probiotics that have immune modulation, because then you're not ramping up the immune system, right? You're not trying to strengthen, like really, really strengthen it. If it was my dog and he was dealing with, there was just a diagnosis, my first probiotic I would reach for would be the wolf. And the reason is because that strain is coming from a canine that we hardly see that disease in. And it's coming from this virgin gut bacteria of animals that are, 150, 170 pound dogs, basically, that are living till they're 15, 17 years of age. They're phenomenally resistant and they're incredibly healthy. And then we have turkey tail, which there is more research than you can possibly imagine for its support with cancer and support with chemotherapy, even as an integrative approach to chemotherapy. In Japan, when people go on chemotherapy, they're immediately put on turkey tail. So that would be my suggestion to start with, for sure.
Great, Julie. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have to wrap up the webinar, but I know that we still have a lot of questions here. So please join our community on Facebook, the Adore Bees Collective. We will be glad to help you there. You can type your answer there, your question there, and we are doing our best to answer all your questions. And so I would like to thank you, everyone who joined us today. We had like a huge audience today. And of course, thank you, Julie, for your time and for this amazing webinar. I wish you all a great night, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can sign up on our website to get all the info about Adore Bees, our promos, new blog postings, and future Ask Julie Anything sessions there. So thank you so much, everyone. I also would like to thank Emily, Tracy, Kaylin, and Michelle, that they all help us today. So thank you, girls, for the amazing job, and stay safe, everyone, and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Canada. Bye.
Bye.